大家好，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到沉思者 J。有一首曲子，你一定听过，就算你说自己不懂古典乐，它从一个轻轻的鼓点开始，然后一个旋律悄悄出现，同一个旋律，再一次，再一次，再一次，整整17分钟，越来越大声，越来越丰富，直到所有乐器一起爆发。那首曲子叫做《波丽露》，它的作曲家叫做莫里斯拉威尔。今天我们要讲的是一个关于完美主义者的故事，也是一个关于消逝的故事，是一个用最精密的技术雕刻出最细腻情感的人，最后亲眼看着自己的才华一点一点从指缝间流失的故事。1875年3月7日，拉威尔出生在法国巴斯克地区的一个小镇。他的父亲约瑟夫是一位工程师，也是业余音乐爱好者。母亲玛丽是巴斯克人，有西班牙血统，这个血统很重要，它让拉威尔的音乐里永远带着一点异域的香气。小拉威尔6岁就开始学钢琴，7岁开始学和声理论。他的老师很快就发现，这个孩子不一样，他有极其敏锐的音感，对节奏的感知近乎天生。14岁那年，他进入了巴黎音乐院，那是法国最顶尖的旋律殿堂。在音乐院的日子并不轻松，拉威尔是个怪学生，他对传统和声规则充满怀疑，他老是想走不一样的路。他的老师们有时候摇头，有时候皱眉，有时候干脆让他重考。拉威尔参加了5次罗马大奖的竞赛，那是法国最重要的音乐奖学金，5次全部落选。最后一次落选的时候，他已经30岁了，理论上已经超过参赛年龄。这件事在巴黎艺术界引起了轩然大波，大家都知道拉威尔已经是一位成熟的作曲家，他的作品已经在音乐厅演出，评论家已经在讨论他的天才，但评审委员会就是不给他奖。这个丑闻最终导致音乐院院长辞职，这在音乐史上几乎是空前的事。即使在这些挫折中，拉威尔没有停止创作，他的早期作品已经展现出独特的个人风格，那种对音色的执着，对细节的近乎偏执的追求，让他的旋律像是精心制作的珠宝，每一颗音符都被放在最恰当的位置。拉威尔最常被拿来和德布西比较，两人都被称为印象主义作曲家，但拉威尔非常不喜欢这个称呼。他说自己的音乐不是印象主义，而是更接近古典主义的结构，只是穿上了现代的外衣。德布西的音乐像是水彩，边界模糊，情绪流动。拉威尔的音乐则像是精密的钟表，每一个齿轮都咬合得恰到好处。他曾说，我的音乐是人造的，不是自然流露的，是精心设计的。这种对精密的追求，在他的钢琴曲及悼念公主的帕旺舞曲中就可以看到。那首曲子有一种遥远的哀愁，像是在纪念一个从未存在过的公主，优雅但不滥情，细腻但不软弱。1908年，他完成了西班牙狂想曲，那段巴斯克血统开始在音乐里流淌。他从未在西班牙长期生活过，但他对伊比利半岛的想象比很多西班牙作曲家更加鲜活。拉威尔曾说，也许正因为是外来者的眼光，才能看到那片土地最迷人的地方。1911年，他完成了钢琴组曲《加斯帕的夜晚》，这是他技术最艰难的钢琴作品之一，特别是其中的水腰一段，那些快速流动的音符，模拟出水面的波光和深处的阴暗。直到今天，加斯帕的夜晚依然是每一位顶尖钢琴家的挑战。然后是第一次世界大战，拉威尔身高只有160公分，体重也偏轻，军方原本不想让他入伍，但他坚持要服役。他最后以司机的身份在前线开车。在那段艰难的岁月里，他的好友作曲家德布西因为癌症离世，他的母亲也在1917年去世，那是他最沉重的打击。他曾说，我这辈子最在乎的人就是我的母亲。战争结束后，拉威尔搬到巴黎郊外一个叫做蒙福尔拉莫里的小村庄， 他在那里建了一座小房子，叫做我的繁花之家。那栋房子小得出奇，但里面的每一个细节都是他亲自设计的，从缩小比例的家具，到精心摆放的艺术品，到那个机械鸟的音乐和收藏。他喜欢玩具，喜欢自动机械，喜欢一切精密运作的小玩意。朋友们说，那栋房子就是他音乐的缩影，小而精致，每一个角落都藏着惊喜。1928年，一个改变世界的委托到来了，一位俄罗斯芭蕾舞者伊达·鲁宾斯坦邀请拉威尔为他编写一段西班牙风格的芭蕾晃曲。拉威尔接受了这个邀请，但他告诉他，我想做一个实验。他要创作一首只有节奏和渐强的曲子，没有任何发展，没有任何变化，只是同一个主题，一遍又一遍，越来越大声。他后来说，我这辈子只写了一首杰作，波丽露。不幸的是，他完全没有旋律。这句话是他的玩笑，但也是他最诚实的自白。波丽露在1928年11月22日首演，巴黎歌剧院。那一晚观众的反应令人难忘，大部分人目瞪口呆，有人说这是天才，有人说这是骗局。据说有一位女士在后排大喊，这个人疯了。拉威尔在侧台听到了，他转身对朋友说，那个女士懂了这首曲子，她说的是真心话，因为波丽露的核心确实有某种强迫性的疯狂，那个无穷无尽的重复，让人既坐立难安又无法离开，就像一个催眠咒语，越转越深。波丽露迅速席卷全球，在他有生之年，他的版税收入的相当大一部分来自这首曲子。至今，波丽露依然是全球演出频率最高的管弦乐曲之一，每次演出都要支付版税，直到版权到期前，他每年为家族带来可观的收入。但就在拉威尔站在事业巅峰的时候，命运开始了他残酷的安排。1932年，他在一次计程车意外中头部受伤，起初他以为只是轻微的脑震荡，但从那以后，他开始注意到自己的变化。他的字写不好了，他在指挥排练时会突然忘记音符。他试图作曲，但那些音符就是不听使唤了。他脑袋里有旋律，他可以听见它们，但他的手就是无法把它们写出来。那种感觉一定是最深的折磨。你是一位用音符说话的人，但你突然发现自己失语了，旋律在你脑中流淌，但你找不到出口。医生后来诊断，他得的可能是额颞叶失智症，一种会逐渐损坏语言和创造能力的脑部疾病。朋友们描述那几年的拉威尔，他仍然风度翩翩，仍然谈笑自若，仍然去听别人演奏他的作品。有时候他坐在音乐厅里听波丽露，听着听着会哭。他说，这首曲子我听到了，但我已经不知道是我写的了。1937年，他决定接受脑部手术，手术后他再也没有清醒。1937年12月28日，莫里斯拉威尔在睡梦中离开了这个世界，他62岁。他离开的时候几乎没有留下任何未完成的作品，因为他已经很多年无法创作了。但他留下的那些作品，个个是珍珠。拉威尔一生没有结婚，没有留下子女，他把全部的爱都倾注在音乐里，倾注在那栋精致的小房子里，倾注在那些机械玩具里。有人问过他，你写的音乐是否有自传性质？他说，我的音乐是人造的，所有情感都是模拟出来的，不是真实的。但他说这话的时候，眼睛里有一种东西，让人怀疑他说的是不是真话。也许正是这种距离感，这种隔着玻璃看情感的方式，让他的音乐有那种独特的冰凉之美。你感受到情感，但你感受不到他本人，就像精密的机械装置，完美运作，但没有温度。又或者，那才是最深的温度，是一个害怕被看见的人，用技术筑起的高墙后面，藏住的全部心事。今天我们站在拉威尔的音乐前，应该想到的是什么？也许是完美主义的代价，也许是失去才能的恐惧，也许是那种 脑中有音乐，手却无能为力的绝望。但我更想记住的是他说过的那句话，在我有生之年，我只需要做一件事，就是写出真正好的音乐。他做到了，即使最后那几年，他只能坐在音乐厅里聆听，无法再创作，他已经留下了足够多的美丽。波丽露那个鼓点，从轻柔到震天，从一个声音到全体合奏，那不只是一首曲子，那是一个人对完美的执念，一路燃烧，燃烧到熄灭为止。谢谢你今天听 Jenny 说拉威尔的故事。如果你今天回家的路上放一遍波丽露，你会听到他的一生，从第一个轻柔的鼓点，到最后那一声洪亮的爆发，再慢慢归于寂静。我们下次见咯。Hello everyone, I am Jenny. Welcome to Thinker J. There is a piece of music you have almost certainly heard, even if you consider yourself someone who does not follow classical music. It begins with a soft, steady drum beat. Then a single melody appears. The same melody again, and again, and again, for 17 full minutes, growing louder, growing richer, until every instrument in the orchestra erupts together. That piece is called Bolero. Its composer was Maurice Ravel. Today we are telling the story of a perfectionist. It is also the story of disappearance. A man who used the most precise technical skill to carve out the most delicate emotions, and who then watched his own genius drain away, drop by drop, slipping through his fingers, while he could only watch. Maurice Ravel was born on March 7, 1875, in a small town called Ciboure in the Basque region of France. His father, Joseph, was an engineer and an amateur music enthusiast. His mother, Marie, was Basque with Spanish heritage. That heritage matters. It meant that Ravel's music would always carry a trace of something exotic, a faint perfume from somewhere far away. Young Ravel began piano lessons at age 6 and studied harmony theory at 7. His teachers noticed quickly that this child was different. He had an extraordinarily sharp ear. His feel for rhythm was almost instinctual. At the age of 14 he entered the Paris Conservatoire, the most prestigious music institution in France. Life at the Conservatoire was not easy. Ravel was a strange student. He had deep doubts about traditional harmonic rules. He was always looking for a different path. His teachers sometimes shook their heads, sometimes frowned, sometimes made him repeat his examinations entirely. Ravel entered the Prix de Rome competition 5 times. That was France's most important music scholarship. 5 times. He failed to win every single time. His final rejection came when he was already 30 years old, theoretically past the eligible age. This caused a scandal in Parisian artistic circles. Everyone knew Ravel was already a mature and accomplished composer. His works were being performed in concert halls. Critics were already discussing his genius. Yet the jury kept turning him away. The scandal ultimately forced the director of the Conservatoire to resign. That was an almost unprecedented event in music history. Even in the midst of those setbacks, Ravel never stopped composing. His early works already displayed a distinctly personal voice. That obsession with tone color, that near-fanatical attention to detail. His music felt like finely crafted jewelry. Every single note placed exactly where it belonged. Ravel is most often compared to Debussy. Both men are called impressionist composers. But Ravel strongly disliked that label. He insisted his music was not impressionism. It was closer, he said, to classical structure, simply wearing modern clothing. Debussy's music is like watercolor, edges blurred, emotions flowing and dissolving. Ravel's music is like a precision clock, every gear meshing perfectly with every other. He once said that his music was artificial, not spontaneous, not naturally flowing, but carefully designed. That pursuit of precision is audible in his piano piece called Pavane for a Dead Princess. That piece carries a distant, refined sadness, as if commemorating a princess who may never have existed at all. Elegant but never sentimental, delicate but never weak. In 1908 he completed the Spanish Rhapsody. That Basque blood began flowing through his music. He had never actually spent significant time in Spain, but his imagined vision of the Iberian Peninsula was more vivid and alive than many Spanish composers could produce. Ravel once observed that perhaps it was precisely the outsider perspective that allowed him to see the most enchanting aspects of that land. In 1911 he finished the piano suite called Gaspard of the Night. It remains one of the technically most demanding piano works he ever wrote, particularly the section called Ondine. Those cascading rapid passages simulate the shimmer of water on a surface and the darkness lurking beneath. To this day, Gaspard of the Night is considered one of the supreme challenges for any top-level concert pianist. Then came the First World War. Ravel stood only about 160 centimeters tall. He was also underweight. The military initially did not want to accept him, but he insisted on serving. He ended up as a truck driver near the front lines. During those difficult years, his close friend the composer Debussy died of cancer. His mother also passed away in 1917. That was the heaviest blow of his life. He once said that his mother was the person he had cared for most in the world. After the war ended, Ravel moved to a small village outside Paris called Montfort-de-la-Maurie. There he built a small house he named Le Belvedere. The house was remarkably tiny, but every detail inside was designed personally by Ravel. From the miniature-scale furniture, to the carefully arranged artworks, to his beloved collection of mechanical singing birds and music boxes. He adored toys. He loved automatic mechanisms. He loved anything small and intricately made that functioned with precision. His friends said that house was a mirror of his music. Small and exquisite, with a surprise hidden in every corner. In 1928, a commission arrived that would change the world. A Russian ballet dancer named Ida Rubinstein invited Ravel to write a Spanish-style ballet score for her. Ravel accepted, but he told her he wanted to conduct an experiment. He was going to write a piece built entirely on rhythm and gradual crescendo. No development, no transformation, just the same theme, over and over, growing louder and louder. He later said that in his entire career he had produced only one masterpiece, Bolero. Unfortunately, he added, it contains absolutely no music. That was his joke. But it was also his most honest confession. Bolero had its world premiere on November 22, 1928, at the Paris Opera. The audience reaction that evening was unforgettable. Most listeners sat in stunned silence. Some called it genius. Some called it a hoax. According to accounts, one woman in the back rows cried out that the composer must be mad. Ravel was standing in the wings and heard her. He turned to a friend and said that woman understood the piece. He meant it sincerely. Because at its core, Bolero contains something genuinely compulsive, almost obsessive. That unceasing repetition makes listeners restless and yet completely unable to leave. Like a hypnotic incantation, drawing deeper and deeper. Bolero swept across the globe almost immediately. During his lifetime, it became a major source of royalty income. To this day, Bolero remains one of the most frequently performed orchestral works in the world. Every performance requires a royalty payment. Until the copyright finally expired, it generated substantial annual income for his estate. But just as Ravel stood at the very peak of his career, fate began its cruel arrangement. In 1932, he was injured in a taxi accident and suffered a head injury. At first he believed it was merely a mild concussion. But from that point forward, he began noticing changes in himself. His handwriting deteriorated. During rehearsals he would suddenly forget passages of music. He tried to compose, but the notes simply refused to obey him anymore. The melodies existed in his mind. He could hear them clearly, but his hands could no longer transcribe them. That sensation must have been an unbearable torture. To be a person who speaks through musical notes, and suddenly find yourself mute. Melodies flowing inside you, but no way out. Doctors later concluded he was most likely suffering from frontotemporal dementia, a progressive brain disease that gradually destroys language and creative capacity. Friends who knew Ravel during those final years described him as still gracious in manner, still able to converse and joke, still attending performances of his own works. Sometimes he would sit in a concert hall listening to Bolero, and slowly begin to weep. He reportedly said he could hear the piece clearly, but he no longer knew that he had written it. In 1937, he decided to undergo brain surgery. He never regained full consciousness after the operation. On December 28, 1937, Maurice Ravel passed away peacefully in his sleep. He was 62 years old. He left behind almost no unfinished compositions at his death, because he had been unable to compose for many years already. But the works he did leave behind are every one a gem. Ravel never married. He left no children. He poured all his devotion into his music, into that exquisitely crafted little house, into those mechanical toys. Someone once asked him whether his music had an autobiographical quality. He replied that his music was artificial. All the emotions in it were simulated, not real. But when he said those words, something in his eyes made people doubt whether he was telling the full truth. Perhaps it was precisely that distance, that way of observing emotion from behind glass, that gave his music its distinctive cool beauty. You feel the emotion, but you cannot feel the man himself, like a precision mechanism, operating perfectly, but without warmth. Or perhaps that was the deepest warmth of all, a man afraid of being seen, who built high walls of technique, and hid everything he felt behind them. When we stand before Ravel's music today, what should we think about? Perhaps the price of perfectionism. Perhaps the terror of losing one's gift. Perhaps that particular despair of hearing music in your mind and being unable to do anything about it. But what I most want to remember is something he said. In my lifetime, I need only accomplish one thing: write music that is truly good. He accomplished it. Even in those final years when he could only sit in concert halls and listen, unable to create anything new, he had already left behind more than enough beauty. That drumbeat in Bolero, moving from the softest whisper to a thunderclap, from a single voice to the full orchestra. It is not simply a piece of music. It is one person's obsession with perfection, burning all the way, burning until there is nothing left. Thank you for listening to Jenny tell the story of Maurice Ravel today. If you put on Bolero on your way home this evening, you will hear his entire life inside it. From that first soft drumbeat, to that final blazing eruption, and then slowly, into silence. See you next time.